William. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Good to see you again.
Nice to see you as well.
I know we saw each other at the leadership team offsite where we talked about the program we're going to be running. Congratulations on being selected for the program, and I look forward to our conversation today.
Been looking forward to it as well.
How's your day going so far?
Been good. Been good. Thank you for asking.
Okay.
How about yourself?
Very good. Very good. Had a lot going on, but looking forward to the next step. So
good deal.
Yeah. So as you know from the meeting, we're going to be doing this leadership program where we're going to do a deep dive into working across differences and working with the leaders to get to that steps. And I think you remember that we talked about intercultural competence, right? And we showed the group profile.
Yes.
Talked about how that would play out in the organization and in the program as well. Today, we're going to focus on your individual results and give you a chance to see your own profile and perhaps have some time to think about how you navigate these differences and how you might apply it to your own goals.
Sounds awesome.
Because that's important, right? That's
Yes, very
to
much
help
so.
you be successful.
Very
okay,
much
so should we start to look at the report? Oh, before we start, actually, I want you to know that this conversation is confidential, and the individual results are really just between you and me, unless you choose to share it with anybody else. So be assured that that's part of the process.
So my supervisors won't have access to this?
No.
Good to know.
I think what you saw in the meeting was the group profile,
Yes.
of the 30 or so folks that were in the program.
Right.
But you'll never, nobody will have a chance to see this.
All right, thank you. That's a good reminder. Thank you.
I think it's important. All right, great. So I'm going to go right to the continuum, just so we have a sense of remembering it. If you remember, we talked about the IDC,
Yes.
the Intercultural Development Continuum, and that in that continuum, basically, to kind of reiterate, intercultural competence is the ability for an individual to shift mindsets and adapt behaviors to cultural difference and commonality. And the continuum gives us both kind of the orientations of how to measure those differences, as well as a roadmap for navigating forward. So if you remember this continuum.
Yes, fascinating, by the way.
It is. Interesting, isn't it? The early mindsets of the kind of what we call monocultural mindsets are the denial and polarization. The transitional mindset is minimization. And the multicultural or global mindsets are acceptance and adaptation. And so wanted you to kind of remember how this looked like and the definitions, and we're going to go into it more specifically.
Helpful reminder. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to go to page 6, and we're going to go right into your results. So if you look at this bar chart here, the PO is what's called the perceived orientation. And this bar chart here shows how you rate your own capability to navigate around cultural differences and commonality. And you rate yourself as being within acceptance, which, if you remember, is the ability to deeply recognize and understand cultural differences and patterns of difference, and really having a strong understanding of that. Okay, so that's where you rate yourself, and in many ways, it's sort of where we want to be, right? It's our aspirational goal, and
so that's what I'm moving towards.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, and probably where sometimes you think you're operating it as well.
That makes sense.
But let me show you where the next graph is. So the next graph here shows you the DO, which is the developmental orientation. And this is your primary way of how you navigate around cultural differences. And so this is a transitional mindset, which tends to focus more on commonality and versus looking at the differences. And so sometimes folks in this developmental orientation may miss some cultural differences that may be there because of their mindset around it. Okay, you want to see how this plays out in real life?
Yeah, I think I do a pretty good job of that, actually.
Okay.
You know, kind of finding, connecting with people and finding commonalities. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense, and that's how it's reflected here in your results as well. That you look for things that you do have in common to connect people, right? And to build that relationship, of course, as well.
Very good.
Okay, it sounds like you're a relationship builder.
I try to be.
Quite a bit. Okay. So let's look at how this plays out. So how does minimization look in real life? And there are these 7 characteristics of what minimization may look like in real life. And I'll read a couple of them to you and see if they resonate with you. And then we'll go back to the gap and see how we might want to proceed forward. So one of the things that comes out with folks whose DOs in minimization is you recognize the humanity, the essential humanity of every person. So you believe that we share this common humanity, and you focus on trying to act in tolerant ways.
I try to.
Yeah, certainly. You're interested in differences, perhaps, customs, food and art, etc., but maybe have a limited ability to adapt to other cultural practices.
I love to travel. I love to experience new things, and maybe sometimes I don't always know maybe the right way to maybe hold chopsticks or something like that.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
always
yeah.
know how to do those things.
Okay, yeah, that could be one of those things, but you're definitely interested in it and definitely have an interest in doing something about it as well. You may assume that people from other cultures are more like you and may apply some of those cultural views to of other cultures in a way that minimizes those cultural differences at times. Yeah, so perhaps kind of applying the golden rule.
I try to live by that. Oh,
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, and that's a wonderful rule, but sometimes that may keep us from doing something differently to connect with that person if that person needs something else to build that relationship. Does that resonate a little bit too?
Yeah, I can hear that. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Another one is may not be fully aware of how your ideas and behavior are actually culturally grounded. But you have a culture too. Do you ever think about yourself that way?
Definitely. I mean, being from, Chicago and working, globally and sometimes having some challenges where I live now in Minnesota. So yeah, I could see that for sure.
Okay. So those are some characteristics of how minimization looks like. So, and finally, I want to just share this one thing. Maybe used as a strategy by non-dominant culture members. And so this is about maybe not wanting to stand out, wanting to fit in, go with the flow.
Go along and get along?
Kind of like that.
Oh,
absolutely.
That's sort of been my philosophy.
I know, I hear you. I've done it too.
That's how I've been able to excel.
Absolutely.
If you say too much or if you push too hard, then, sometimes you get a little pushback, a lot of pushback. So I've pretty much figured out how to kind of stay below the radar.
Yeah. And that's what it's showing up here in your results as well.
This is fascinating.
Yeah. So it's a pretty fascinating and very rich instrument because it can show you a lot of things. So let's go back to the gap.
Okay.
What that means, this orientation gap.
I was a little worried about this.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'll be honest about that.
Okay. Well, you don't have to be too worried.
Okay.
Most people tend to overestimate their ability to navigate around cultural differences, so that's not unusual. I think it's what you do about it once you recognize that's more important. So orientation gap is really the difference between your PO and the DO.
Okay.
And it shows you your gap as being 23.99, which is a meaningful gap. Anything above 7 points is something to think about.
Okay, but that seems pretty big.
Yeah, it is, but it's not, I've seen that. I've seen gaps like this, and it's not unusual. I think what you want to think about is where are these gaps coming from? Where might you be overestimating some of those differences and how you kind of take forward. But that's part of our action plan, so we're going to get there. Yeah, this is not our last meeting.
Thing.
Huh?
Oh, that's good to hear. But this overestimating thing, say some more about that. That's I'd like to think about that because I try to prepare. I'd like to think that I prepare when I'm, maybe when I'm about to travel or even when I'm working with different colleagues of different backgrounds. I try to think about what might be going on, but I don't know. Maybe, I don't know if I'm preparing the right way or something. I don't know.
Sure. And it could be happening because maybe there's a lack of cultural self-awareness about the impact of your behaviors on other cultures. Oh. And so you might be using some practices, but it may not be landing the same way or the right way for the folks in an authentic way with people from different backgrounds. So that could be how it may be playing out.
That's very helpful.
There could be some areas that you might want to examine to say, hey, get feedback and say, is this authentic? Does this make sense?
So my intentions might be really, really good, but the impact might not be what I had hoped.
That's right. I think most of us have fairly good intentions when we're trying to navigate with a different cultural group or a community. Most are not going to be out to get someone,
Yeah.
So I would imagine most of the time, or 100% of the time, it is good intentions. So this is how it's shown up. Yeah.
Very helpful.
All right?
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think with that, I would just want to kind of go to the next step of your leading orientation, which is showing that right in front of you, basically it's what's right in front of minimization, and that's acceptance through adaptation. And so you're going to be focusing on increasing your cultural self-awareness, really understanding the factors and deeply embedded factors that have embedded in you, that have impacted you. And then learning cultural general and cultural specific frameworks. So for example, how do people resolve differences from other cultures? And how does it differ from mine? How do people show respect to each other? How do they show those types of things? Perhaps that might be similar to or different from the way I do it. Okay?
And is that what the cultural self-awareness is?
That's right.
Kind of figuring that stuff out for me?
Correct. Both for yourself, but also understanding about others. Okay. And so there's There's kind of a parallel learning that you're
How will I go
doing.
about doing that?
Oh, well, we'll get there too.
Oh,
We'll get there
okay.
too. All right. So I want to get to some of the action planning items at this point because I'm sure you're curious about doing something about this. I know your
Yes.
company's so into results and making
Yes,
things happen, and so I don't want to
absolutely.
stop there. How does this resonate with your experience around culture? How does this all land with you right now?
Well, I mean, this piece about sort of the go along to get along, I've been thinking a lot about that. We used to have this training program back when I first joined the leadership team. And, you know, it sort of didn't really go too well. And I think I realized right then and there I can't push too hard. So that's really the thing that's sticking out, but I really don't know what to do about that.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm hoping that this will give me some insights into
Okay.
that.
Okay.
But that was very helpful.
Okay. Do the findings here kind of give you some thoughts on perhaps why you may have responded that way?
Oh, I would think so.
Okay.
You know, in terms of maybe not necessarily thinking through my own experiences fully, or not necessarily having, like you were saying, some of those cultural,
Sure.
whatever you were talking about, those cultural
General frameworks.
Frameworks, yeah.
Uh-huh.
I definitely haven't thought about any of that stuff for
Okay.
myself. So
That's okay.
being
Yeah.
able to see that in other people, I could see where I'm missing some stuff.
All right. Very good. Good. What is the most challenging for you or frustrating for you as you navigate around cultural difference? Do you have anything that pops up as,
Well,
"Gosh, this
definitely.
is really hard"?
Well, yeah, for sure. I mean, the intentions thing, you know, I try to, with good intentions, you know, maybe engage some of my peers. Sometimes I might be a little more direct in my communication, you know, I might be, and sometimes that doesn't land, like you said, it doesn't land very well. So
Okay.
I think the intention impact thing is something that I've been struggling with. If you will.
Okay. I think that's an amazing thing for you to work on in this leadership program because you can really kind of highlight and isolate that as something you want to focus on over, let's say, 6 months.
Yeah, that
through
would
the
be
different
awesome.
modules of work we're going to do.
Okay.
And then finally, do you have any goals? You know, 1 or 2 goals that you now have around culture and navigating differences? Anything that you want to focus on that will help you become more effective?
Well, I would think that there have been some situations that, you know, I've been trying to figure out. Maybe there were some cultural elements to them. So maybe going back to one of my colleagues and having some conversations about
Okay.
some past experiences. So that would be one of my goals,
Okay.
would be to figure out what had happened in this situation with one of my colleagues and
Okay.
maybe problem
Okay.
solve
Do
with
you want to
them.
talk about that a little bit now, or?
Well, I mean, the situation was, you know, a friend of, well, I shouldn't say necessarily a friend, but one of the people that report to me, they were, their spouse was having a baby, and they didn't tell me directly. And so when I found out about it, I said, you know, I should, you know, of course, take the time off.
Yeah.
But they didn't feel comfortable, or I don't really know. I've always said I've got an open door policy. My staff could come and talk to me, but in this situation, they didn't quite feel, I don't know, comfortable talking to me. I gave them the time off, but I've been trying to figure out why that is.
Okay. I think that's an excellent example of something you can explore.
That would be
in
really
this program,
helpful.
and maybe there'll be a time when you can actually have those conversations
That
with
would
that
be really
individual
helpful.
in a way that's respectful and honors, you know, what you believe as well. All right, great, great. Well, the next thing I'm going to do is to give you your individual development plan, and that will give you an opportunity to reflect on all the things we talked about. I know we talked about a lot of definitions and terms that maybe are new to you.
No, but you made it very easy and accessible. Thank you for that. Yeah, it was very
well,
helpful.
that's the point of it. And I'm going to be here, so this is an ongoing dialogue.
No, thank
and
you.
so as a resource, as you think and reflect and think, wow, I'm stuck on this, we can cover those things as we move along.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right.
Thanks
Good to
a
see
lot.
you.
Nice
All
to
right.
see you as well.